If you're watching this, if you're sitting there, and there's a name scratching at the back of your mind right now, someone you haven't called, someone you're giving space to because your pride is still stinging from a comment they made 3 years ago, someone you're waiting for an apology from, drop the pride, pick up the phone, call them, send a message. You'll be glad you did. The bridge between you and the people you love is made of glass. It's the quiet that gets you in the end. When you're young, you're terrified of the noise. You're scared of the shouting, the heated arguments, the sound of a door slamming so hard the pictures rattle on the walls. You think that is how relationships die, in a blaze of fire. But I've lived long enough to know the truth. Fire leaves ashes. You can still see where the structure used to be. But the quiet is like a slow leak in a basement. You don't notice it until the foundation has rotted away entirely. It's the things you didn't say because you were tired, or because you were proud, or because you honestly believed you had 10,000 more mornings to say them. I used to think relationships were like mountains. I looked at my marriage, my friendships, my family, and I saw these massive, unmoving, permanent fixtures. I assumed they were fixed points on my map, that no matter how far I wandered, or how much time I spent chasing a career, those mountains would be right where I left them when I decided to look back. But I was wrong. Relationships aren't mountains. They're more like smoke or tide pools. They require a very specific, very delicate atmosphere to survive. If you stop tending to the temperature, if you stop checking the salt levels, they just evaporate, and you're left standing on dry sand, wondering where the life went. I had a brother, Leo. If you had seen us when we were 10, you'd have thought we were the same soul split into two bodies. We shared a cramped room that smelled like old sneakers and comic books. We shared secrets that felt like life and death. We even shared a beat-up old Ford in our 20s that broke down every 3 miles, and we'd laugh until our ribs ached while pushing it to the shoulder. We didn't have a falling out. There was no grand betrayal. No one stole money. No one insulted the other's wife. Life just happened. I got busy. I became a man of consequence at the firm. I had billable hours that felt more important than his phone calls. He moved 3 towns over. Not 3 countries, 3 towns. A 40-minute drive. But that drive might as well have been across the moon. We started saying, let's grab a beer next week. Then it became next month. Then it became, let's catch up at Christmas. I'd see his name pop up on my phone on a Tuesday night, and I'd think, I'm too exhausted for a long talk. I'll call him Saturday. But Saturday was for the lawn, or the kids' games, or the office. I remember the last time I saw him, truly saw him. It was a funeral for a mutual friend. We stood by our cars in the parking lot afterward. The air was cold, and I could feel the distance between us like a physical weight, a canyon we had both spent 20 years digging. I wanted to reach out, to hug him, to say, I miss the boys we used to be. I'm sorry I stopped calling. But I was afraid. I was afraid of the awkwardness. I didn't want to admit I'd let the fire go out. So I did the most manly thing I could. I shook his hand. A firm, professional, hollow handshake. I said, don't be a stranger, Leo. He died of a stroke 4 months later. In his pockets, they found a grocery list and a receipt for a car part. Just a normal day. He didn't know it was his last day, and I didn't know I'd spent my last next week. The silence of a phone that will never ring again is a very specific kind of torture. It's a weight in your chest that never quite lifts, reminding you that later is a predatory lie. And then there's Claire, my Claire. When we were young, we were a storm. We could talk for 6 hours straight about absolutely nothing. We'd stay up until the sky turned purple, dissecting the world, our dreams, our fears. We were curious about each other's minds. But as the years went on, we stopped being explorers and started being managers. We stopped talking about the world and started talking about the logistics of a life together. Did you pay the electric bill? The car needs an oil change. Don't forget we have dinner with the Millers on Friday. We became roommates in a museum of our own love. We walked past the exhibits, the wedding photos, the souvenirs from Italy, but we stopped looking at the person standing right in front of us. I assumed I already knew everything there was to know about her. I stopped asking her questions. I stopped being curious about the woman she was becoming, because I was too busy managing the woman I thought she was. That's the danger of the word forever. When you think you have forever, you stop trying to win them over. You stop the small gestures. You stop looking them in the eye when they tell you about their day because you're half focused on a screen or a spreadsheet. I remember one Tuesday. Just a random, grey, unremarkable Tuesday. She was sitting at the kitchen table, just staring out at the garden. The light hit her hair in a way that made her look like she was disappearing. I walked in, filled a glass of water, and walked right back out. I didn't touch her shoulder. I didn't ask what she was looking at. I didn't say, "You look beautiful in this light." I didn't know that was one of our last quiet moments before the chaos of the illness began. 2 weeks later, the diagnosis came. And suddenly, all those years of logistics felt like a colossal, tragic waste of breath. I would have given every cent I ever earned, every award on that shelf, just to go back to that Tuesday, just to sit down at that table, hold her hand, and say, "Tell me what you're thinking about. I'm listening." We're told that fear is a good thing. It keeps us safe. But fear is a thief. We're afraid of rejection, so we don't reach out to the friend we haven't spoken to in years. We're afraid of vulnerability, so we don't say, "I love you" first, or "I'm sorry," or "I'm lonely." We're afraid of being too much, so we settle for being nothing at all. But let me tell you what's actually scary. It's not the rejection. It's not the awkwardness of a phone call. It's sitting in a house full of furniture that no one sits on anymore. It's looking at a contact list on your phone and realizing half the names belong to ghosts. People who aren't dead, but people who have drifted so far away, they might as well be on another planet. It's the realization, when the house is finally quiet at night, that you traded the most precious thing in the universe, human connection, for things that are currently gathering dust. If you're watching this, if you're sitting there, and there's a name scratching at the back of your mind right now, someone you haven't called, someone you're giving space to because your pride is still stinging from a comment they made 3 years ago, someone you're waiting for an apology from, drop the pride, pick up the phone, call them, send a message. You'll be glad you did. The bridge between you and the people you love is made of glass. It's beautiful and it's clear, but it is incredibly fragile. You think it takes a sledgehammer to break it? No. It just takes neglect. It just takes a few years of not walking across it. And once it shatters, you can't just glue the pieces back together and expect to see the same reflection. The cracks will always be there. I spend a lot of time alone now. People tell me, "Oh, you've had such a good life." And I want to scream. Loneliness isn't just the absence of people. You can be in a crowded room and be lonely. No, real loneliness is the presence of all the things you should have done when you had the chance. It's a room full of should-haves and could-haves. It's the echo of the conversations you were too busy to have. Life doesn't give you a warning shot. There's no siren that goes off to tell you, "Pay attention. This is the last time you'll hear your daughter's childhood laugh." Or, "This is the last time your mother will know who you are when you walk into the room." It just ends. One day you're part of a vibrant, messy, beautiful web of people. And the next, the threads start snapping. And then, one day, you find yourself all alone. Just you. Don't let the silence win. Don't wait for a heart attack or a hospital bed to realize that your important meetings were just noise. Don't wait until you're 73 to understand that the only thing you'll want to take with you is the feeling of a hand in yours. Because by the time you realize how fragile it all is, the breaking has usually already begun.